The night was heavy with rain, the kind that blurred the stars and drowned every sound. A lonely human traveler walked along a broken path through the alien forest, his boots sinking into wet soil. He pulled his coat tighter against the wind, thinking only of reaching shelter before dawn. Then he heard it, a cry, not of an animal, not of the storm, but of a voice, weak and trembling. He stopped, scanning the trees. His hand moved toward the small knife on his belt. The cry came again. Closer now, desperate from the shadows, stumbled a woman, her skin glowing faint blue under the alien moon. Her hair, tangled and soaked, clung to her shoulders. She fell to her knees in front of him, mud splashing around her. Her hand shook as she reached for his boots, her eyes wide with terror. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Help me, find my child." The human froze. His journey had been hard, and he trusted no one on this planet. Yet the sight of her, broken, terrified, pleading, sent a cold shiver through him. He looked around, expecting an ambush. Was this a trap? Was she bait for bandits or worse? Her fingers dug into the wet soil as she lifted her face. Her eyes glowed softly, not with power, but with tears. "They took her, my little one. She is all I have," she begged. "You are human. You have strength. Please help me." He pulled back a step, confusion written on his face. Why him? He was no soldier, only a wanderer. He had nothing to give, no reason to risk his life for a stranger. Yet her words, her voice wrapped around him like chains. The storm raged louder, thunder rolling above, but her quiet plea cut through it all. He saw the marks on her arms, long scratches, signs of struggle. Her clothes were torn. She had been running, hiding, fighting, not for herself, but for someone small, someone helpless. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice sharp but not cruel. "I want my child back," she cried. "I will give you anything, anything, just help me." Her words echoed with desperation. The human's chest tightened. He had seen many faces in his travels, merchants with greedy eyes, thieves with lies on their tongues. But this woman's pain was real. Her voice carried no trick, only fear. He turned his eyes to the forest path behind her. The mud was broken with marks, footprints, some large, some small, and drag lines across the ground. Something had been taken through there recently. The truth settled heavy in his stomach. Her child was real and still close. The human looked down at her again. She bowed so low her forehead touched the ground. Her shoulders shook as she sobbed. The rain washed over her, but she did not rise. Her voice was muffled, but he heard it clearly. "Please, I will give you what no other will. I will pay with my life if I must. Just save her." His knife felt heavier at his side. His heart pounded. He could turn away, pretend he never saw her. The storm would hide her cries. The night would swallow her story. But something inside him, something old and human, refused to let him walk. "Away, stand," he said, his voice low, firm. She lifted her head slowly, hope and fear clashing in her eyes. "Tell me what happened. Tell me who took her." Her breath caught. She pressed her hand to her chest as if the words themselves burned to be spoken. "Hunters," she whispered. "They hunt the young, sell them, trade them. I fought them, but I was weak. They dragged her away." Her voice cracked again. "She cried for me. I could not stop them." The human's jaw tightened. He had heard of such hunters, men and beasts who saw life only as profit. He hated them, always had. His eyes moved once more to the trail. The marks were fresh. They could still be reached. But he said nothing. Yet he let the silence hang heavy between them. Her hands trembled as she waited for his answer. The rain drummed against the leaves above. The wind howled like the voices of the lost. At last he sighed, his breath mixing with the storm. "If I help you," he asked, "what will you give me?" Her lips parted, her eyes widened. She leaned closer, whispering so softly he almost missed it. What she offered was so strange, so unthinkable. It left him staring in silence, but her next words shook him more than any promise. "Do not save me," she begged. "Save my child. She is innocent. She is all I have." The human stood still in the rain, torn between fear, doubt, and something else. The path behind her waited, dark and dangerous, but alive with hope. He clenched his fists, knowing his next choice would change everything. And so, under the storm in the alien sky, the human faced the desperate plea of a mother, and the first step of a journey neither of them could escape. The rain slowed to a cold drizzle. The human stood over the alien mother, his eyes locked on hers. Her words still echoed in his mind. What she had whispered as an offer was shocking, almost unbelievable, but it was her desperation that struck him harder than the promise. He had traveled through many lands, met liars and thieves, seen bribes and bargains, but never before had someone offered something so personal, so raw, just for help. He stared at her, unsure if he should feel anger, pity, or something in between. "Why me?" he asked, his voice low. "There are others, soldiers, mercenaries, hunters stronger than I." She shook her head quickly, her wet hair clinging to her cheeks. "They will not help me," she said, her voice trembling. "They serve the hunters, or they fear them. You are human, you are not bound by their rules, you have no fear of their power. I saw it in your eyes." The human frowned. He had no intention of being anyone's hero. He was just a wanderer, a man moving from place to place. Yet here she was, clutching at him as if he was her last chance. Her hands trembled as she reached out again. "I swear, if you help me, I will give you what no alien here would ever give, a human." Her voice was steady now, though tears still stained her face. "My life will be yours, my strength, my body, my blood. I will bind myself to you." The human's chest tightened. The weight of her words was heavy. He knew what such an oath meant among her people. It was more than a promise, it was slavery of the soul, a bond that could not be broken. But he did not want chains, nor did he wish to own another life. He stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "Keep your words," he said. "I don't want them." Her eyes widened. "Then what do you want?" she whispered. "Truth," he said, his voice cold. "Tell me everything. No secrets, no lies. If I am to risk my life, I want to know what waits for me." She looked down, her lips trembling. For a moment, silence hung heavy, broken only by the distant call of creatures in the forest. Then she nodded slowly. "I will tell you," she whispered. "But once you hear, you may leave me. Many do, when they learn the truth." The human crouched in front of her, his eyes sharp. "Tell me," he demanded. She drew in a shivering breath. "The hunters who took my child, they are not only slavers, they serve a greater master, a shadow that lives deep in the dark lands. My people fear it. No one dares to cross that border. But my child, she was taken beyond it." Her voice cracked. "If you follow me, you will walk into a land cursed by every tribe, a land where even fire struggles to live." The human's face hardened. He had heard whispers of such a place, a wasteland where the air itself felt wrong. Some said monsters roamed there, others said the land itself devoured the living. He looked at her, wondering if she spoke truth or fear. "You ask me to walk into death," he said, his tone flat. She lifted her chin, though tears still wet her cheeks. "I ask you to save an innocent life," she answered, her hands pressed together, her body shaking. "I cannot do it alone. If I go, I will die. If you go with me, maybe we live, maybe she lives." The human stared at her. Her voice was weak, her body frail, but her spirit burned bright. For her child, she would risk anything, even beg a stranger, even throw away her own freedom. He rose slowly to his feet, the rain dripping from his coat. His eyes moved once more to the trail behind her. The marks were still there, the footprints, the drag lines, the child's path. "You said you would bind yourself to me," he said suddenly. His voice was calm, though sharp as a blade. "Would you truly give your life, even if I asked for nothing?" Her eyes widened. She swallowed hard, then nodded. "Yes," she whispered, "because if my child dies, I have no life to give anyway." His chest tightened at her words. He had expected lies, maybe hesitation, but instead he found only truth. Bitter and raw, the human's hand clenched around the hilt of his knife, not in anger, but in decision. He looked down at her, her body shaking with cold and exhaustion, yet her eyes never leaving his. At last he spoke. "Stand." She blinked. Confused. "You will help?" "I will walk the path," he said firmly. "Not for your oath, not for your promises, but for the child." He took a step closer, his voice like iron. "But if you lie to me, if you hide anything, I will leave you in the dark lands. Do you understand?" She nodded quickly, her breath catching. Relief shone in her eyes, so bright it was almost painful to see. She pressed her hands to her chest and whispered, "Thank you." The human turned to the trail, the storm quieting above. As if the world itself listened, the dark path stretched before them, filled with dangers unseen. His steps were heavy but certain. For the first time in many years, he was walking not for himself, but for another. Behind him, the alien mother followed, her heart pounding with fear and hope. In her mind, she prayed that he was strong enough, brave enough, human enough to face what awaited them. The deal was made, not with gold, not with chains, but with trust and desperation. And as they vanished into the shadows of the forest, both knew the true cost had only just begun. The forest grew darker as they walked. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick and heavy. The trees bent low as if whispering secrets. Glowing plants lit their path with pale blue light. Shadows stretched long, twisting like living things. The human walked in front, his knife loose in his hand, his boots pressed against damp soil, each step careful. Behind him, the alien mother followed, her breath shaky, her hands clutched to her chest. She kept her eyes on the trail, where the small footprints of her child were still pressed into the mud. "Stay close," the human said without turning. His voice was sharp but steady. "I will," she whispered. Her heart beat like a drum, but she forced her legs to keep moving. Every sound in the night, every rustle, every cry of a distant creature made her tremble. She had walked this forest many times, but never past this border, never into the dark lands. Soon the trees thinned, and the land opened to a wide valley. The sky above was strange, the stars hidden. A gray mist clung low to the ground. The earth looked burned, cracked and dry, as if life itself had been drained from it. The human stopped, his eyes scanning the land. "This is it," he said. His tone carried no fear, but his jaw tightened. He knew this was no ordinary place. The alien mother stepped beside him, her face pale, her body shaking. "I told you," she whispered. "No one comes here, not even the bravest of my people. This land is cursed. Some say it swallows the soul." The human did not answer. He crouched and studied the ground. The footprints continued forward, smaller, lighter now. The child had been dragged, but not far. "She's alive," he said, his voice low. She was still moving when they passed here. Tears filled the mother's eyes. She covered her mouth, choking on a sob. Hope flared inside her, burning through the fear. They moved forward together. The mist thickened, clinging to their clothes. It was colder here. The air tasted of ash. The human's instinct screamed danger. He tightened his grip on the knife, his eyes scanning every shadow. Then, a sound. A low growl rolled across the valley. It was not close, but not far either. The alien mother gasped and reached for the human's arm. He pulled her behind him and stood still, listening. The growl faded, but the silence that followed was worse. The human's heart beat faster. He had faced wild beasts before, but this sound was different. It carried hunger, patience, intelligence. They pressed on. Every step heavy, every moment the mother expected claws or teeth to strike. But instead, they found something else. Broken cages scattered along the path. The metal was bent and twisted, the bars clawed open, chains lay rusted in the dirt, stained with dark patches. The mother's breath hitched. "These are theirs," she whispered. "The hunters use cages. For the children, they break them, sell them." Her voice cracked. "This is their trail." The human knelt and touched one of the cages. His eyes narrowed. "They are close," he said. The ground showed signs of many feet, not just one child. A group had passed here, dragging prisoners, leaving scars on the earth. As they walked further, the valley narrowed into a canyon. Jagged, rocks rose on either side. The mist clung thicker, swallowing sound only the crunch of their boots echoed. The mother's steps faltered, her knees weak. "I cannot," she whispered. Her body shook, her chest ached. Fear pressed heavy on her soul, stronger with each step into this cursed land. She dropped to the ground, clutching her head. "The air, it burns inside me." The human turned sharply. His eyes scanned her trembling form. Her alien skin glowed faint, pulsing as if reacting to the land. He crouched, gripping her shoulders. "Breathe," he ordered. "Don't let it take you." She shook her head. "You don't understand. The land hates us. It pulls our life away. I cannot go further, not alone." The human's jaw clenched. He looked at the path ahead, then back at her. Her body was weakening, yet her eyes still begged him not to leave. He pulled her to her feet, steadying her. "Then lean on me," he said. His voice was like steel. "If this land hates you, let it fight me instead." She leaned against him, her body shaking. His strength kept her upright. Together they pressed deeper into the canyon, step by step. Soon they saw light, faint, flickering, fire against the mist. The human raised his hand, signaling her to stay quiet. They crouched behind jagged rocks, peering forward. There, in a hollow ahead, were the hunters. Dark shapes moved around the fire, their bodies tall, their eyes glowing red in the smoke. They carried blades of bone and armor stitched from skin. Beside them, small cages were stacked, some filled, some empty. The mother's eyes widened as she spotted a small figure curled inside one of the cages. The tiny hands, the small face, even hidden in shadow, she knew. Her child. She bit her hand to stop her cry, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her whole body trembled with both relief and terror. The human's eyes narrowed. He counted the hunters, studied their weapons, measured the ground. His mind worked quickly, cold and sharp. This was no chance rescue. It would take skill, timing, and a risk that could cost them both their lives. He leaned closer to the mother, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your child is here," he said, "but so are your enemies." Her breath shook. Her hands gripped his arm. "Then we fight," she whispered, her voice filled with desperate fire. The human's eyes met hers, steady, unyielding. In that moment, he knew the deal they had made was not only about survival, it was about trust, and that trust would be tested in fire and blood. And so, hidden in the mist of the cursed land, they prepared to face the hunters, the mother trembling with love and fear, the human steady as stone. The battle for the child was about to begin. The fire crackled in the hollow, its light dancing across the hunters' faces. Their skin was marked with scars, their teeth sharp, their eyes glowing like embers. They laughed in harsh voices, tossing bones into the flames. Around them, cages rattled as frightened children whimpered in silence. The human crouched low behind the rocks, his breath steady. His eyes scanned every detail, the number of hunters, the weapons they carried, the layout of the camp. Beside him, the alien. Mother trembled, her hand pressed against her mouth to keep her cries inside. Her eyes never left the small cage where her child curled. "There are too many," she whispered, her voice broken with fear. "We cannot fight them all." The human's gaze stayed locked on the fire. His voice was calm, almost cold. "We do not need to fight them all. Only the ones between us and the child." She turned to him, her face pale. "You would risk it? You would fight?" He looked at her then, his eyes like steel. "You begged me to save her," he said. "So I will, but you must listen. Do everything I say no matter what." Her breath caught, but she nodded quickly. Her heart pounded with both terror and hope. The human studied the camp again. There were 6 hunters, 3 by the fire, 2 circling the cages, and 1 farther back, sharpening a blade. Their weapons were crude but deadly, their bodies large and strong. But he had something they did not: human cunning. "They expect fear," he said softly. "They expect silence. But fear is their weakness. If we strike fast, they will not know how to stop us. The mother swallowed. Her hands shook as she whispered, "Then tell me what I must do." He leaned close, his words quick and sharp. "When I move, you go to the cages, open them, free as many children as you can. The chaos will blind them. Do not fight unless you must. Protect your child first." Her throat tightened. "And you?" His lips curved into the faintest of grim smiles. "I will be the noise." Before she could answer, he slipped from behind the rocks, his body low, moving like a shadow. He circled wide, the mist covering his steps. The hunters by the fire laughed, louder, unaware of the storm about to strike. The mother's breath caught in her throat. Every moment her body screamed to run, to hide. But she remembered his words, remembered the deal, remembered her child. She pressed herself against the rocks, waiting for the signal. It came suddenly. A sharp cry split the night as the human leapt from the mist, his knife flashing in the firelight. In one swift move, he struck the nearest hunter, the blade sinking deep. The beast roared and fell, blood spraying across the fire. The other hunters turned in shock, their laughter vanishing. Chaos erupted. The mother ran, her legs trembling but fast. She reached the cages. Her hands fumbled at the locks, pulling, twisting. The children inside looked at her with wide, terrified eyes. She whispered quickly, "Quiet. Stay low. I will free you." The hunters roared. Two charged toward the human, blades raised high. He ducked, his body fast. His knife cut one across the throat, blood spilling. The second swung hard. The human blocked with his arm, pain shooting through him. But he drove, his blade into the hunter's chest. The creature staggered and fell, but more came. The camp was alive with fury. The hunter at the back raised a horn to his lips. A deep sound echoed into the night, a call for others. The mother froze at the sound, terror rushing through her. "Hurry!" the human shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. She tore at the lock with all her strength. At last it snapped open. The cage door swung wide. Her child tumbled into her arms, small arms clinging to her neck. The mother wept, holding her tight. I have you," she whispered again and again. But the danger was not over. The hunters surrounded the fire, their eyes glowing red with rage. The horn still sounded louder now, calling more from the darkness. The human's chest heaved with breath, his knife dripped blood. His body was cut, bruised, but his eyes never wavered. "Run," he shouted at her. She looked at him, clutching her child. Her heart broke. She could not leave him, not after all he had done. "No," she cried. "I will not leave you." His jaw clenched, his eyes burned with fierce command. "If you stay, she dies. Go." The mother staggered, torn between love and terror. Her child sobbed in her arms. The hunters closed in, more shadows moving in the mist beyond. The trap was sprung and they were caught. But in that moment, the human moved again, his body a storm of steel and fury. He struck with all the strength left in him, blades clashing, fire blazing. His roar echoed louder than the horn, shaking the camp. The mother turned, clutching her child, running toward the edge of the canyon. Behind her, the sounds of battle filled the air. Steel against bone, cries of pain, the fire roaring higher. She did not look back, but tears fell from her eyes. The trap had been set, and the price was blood. Yet in the heart of the storm, one human stood unbroken, buying hope with his courage. The mother's feet pounded against the cracked earth as she clutched her child close. Her breath came in ragged gasps, the mist wrapping around her like chains. Behind her, the clash of steel and the roar of hunters shook the night, but she dared not look back. Her child's small voice whispered against her ear. "Mama." The word weak, trembling but alive. Tears blurred the mother's vision. She pressed a kiss to the child's head, whispering again and again, "I have you, I will not lose you." But even as relief filled her heart, fear dragged at her. The human was still behind, fighting, bleeding, holding back the storm so she and her child could run. Every step forward felt like betrayal. Every cry from behind tore at her soul. She reached a ridge and turned. Her eyes widened in horror. The fire below lit the battle. The human moved like a shadow, his knife flashing, his body battered. He fought with raw fury, but the hunters closed around him, more shadows pouring from the mist, answering the horn's call. The mother gasped, clutching her child tighter. She could not leave him, not now, not after all he had risked. "Stay here," she whispered to her child, placing her gently behind a rock. "Stay hidden no matter what." The child whimpered, reaching for her, but the mother's hands were firm. "I will come back," she promised. "Do not move." With that, she turned and ran back toward the fire. Her body trembled with fear, her steps uneven, but her spirit burned. She would not let him fall. The human staggered, a hunter's blade slicing across his arm. Blood poured, but he struck back, his knife sinking deep. The hunter collapsed, but another came, larger, stronger. His blade smashed against the human's, forcing him back toward the fire. Sparks flew, the flames roared higher. The mother rushed into the chaos. Her eyes found the scattered cages. She grabbed a broken chain and swung it with desperate strength. Striking a hunter across the head, the beast roared and fell. She screamed with all her might, not in fear but in fury. The sound cut through the camp, a mother's cry, raw and unstoppable. The human turned, shock flashing in his eyes. "I told you to run," he shouted, his voice hoarse. "I will not," she cried, her face fierce. "Not while you bleed for my child!" The hunters snarled, circling them both. Their red eyes glowed with hunger. The ground shook with their steps, the firelight painted their teeth sharp and white. Then, the earth itself trembled. A low rumble spread through the canyon. The hunters froze, their laughter fading. From the mist beyond the camp, a massive shape moved, its shadow stretched across the ground. The mother's breath caught. "No," she whispered, terror flooding her face. They woke it. The human's eyes narrowed as the shape stepped into the firelight. It was a beast unlike any he had seen, taller than two men, its skin black and cracked like stone, its eyes burned red, its mouth split into jagged fangs. The hunters roared with triumph, for the beast was theirs, their weapon, their monster. The mother trembled, her body pressing close to the human. "We cannot fight that," she whispered. "It will kill us." The beast roared, the sound shaking the air. The ground split where its claws struck. Fire cracked higher. The children in the cages screamed. The hunters chanted, their voices rising in a cruel rhythm, but the human stood firm. His chest heaved, his knife slick with blood. His body was broken, yet his eyes burned with something no beast could match. He stepped forward, his voice low but steady. "Then we fight anyway." The mother stared at him, her heart pounding. Her people would have fled, would have bowed to fear, but this human, broken and bleeding, stood against the impossible. Her chest tightened, her fear turning to fire. The beast charged, its claws tearing the ground. The human leapt aside, rolling. His knife slashed across its side. Sparks flew as the blade scraped against its stone-like skin. The beast roared in fury, swinging its tail. The human was thrown back, slamming against a cage. His vision blurred, pain exploding through his body. The mother screamed and rushed to his side, her hands pressed to his wounds. Her tears fell. "You cannot die, not now," she whispered. The beast turned, stomping closer, its red eyes fixed on them. The hunters laughed, raising their weapons in triumph, but the human's hand gripped hers, his voice hoarse but fierce. "The fire," he whispered. "Lead it to the fire." Her eyes widened, she understood. Together they moved. The human rose with staggering strength. His knife raised again, the beast roared and charged, its massive body shook the ground. At the last moment, the human and the mother split apart. The beast lunged, its claws smashing into the fire pit. Flames exploded, roaring higher. The beast howled as fire consumed its cracked skin. The hunters screamed in rage. The human leapt, driving his knife into the beast's neck. The mother seized a burning branch and struck. Together they fought with desperate fury. The beast roared again, but the flames spread across its body. Its cries shook the canyon. Then, with one final scream, it collapsed, the fire devouring. Silence fell. The hunters froze, their eyes wide with fear. Their beast was gone, their trap broken. The human staggered, falling to his knees. His body broken, his breath shallow. The mother caught him, holding him tight. Her child ran from the rocks, crying, wrapping tiny arms around them both. The hunters began to retreat, their courage shattered. Some fled into the mist, others dragged cages with them, but none dared face the human again. The mother wept, clutching both her child and the human. Her heart burst with relief, grief, and awe. He had done what no one else would. He had faced the impossible, and lived. The rescue was complete, but the cost was written in blood. The human's strength was nearly gone. Yet in that moment, under the firelight, he smiled faintly, his voice soft. "She is safe." The mother pressed her forehead to his, her tears falling. "Yes," she whispered. "Because of you." The fire burned low, its light fading to embers. The canyon was quiet now. Only the crackle of flames and the soft cries of freed children echoed in the mist. The hunters had fled, their chants silenced, their monster destroyed. Yet the human lay weak on the ground, his blood dark against the stones. The alien mother held him in her arms. Her child pressed close to her side. Her tears stained his face as she whispered his name, though she did not know it. He had never given it. He had never asked for hers. And still he had fought for her child, as if they were his own. "Stay with me," she begged, her voice breaking. "Do not leave us now, not after all you have done." The human's eyes flickered open. His breath came ragged, his face pale. He managed the faintest of smiles. "She is safe," he whispered. His gaze moved to the child. "That is enough." The mother's heart clenched. She shook her head fiercely. "No, it is not enough. You cannot die here, not like this." She pressed her hands to his wounds, trying to stop the flow of blood. Her glowing skin pulsed faintly, her energy mixing with his broken body. But she was weak, drained by the cursed land. Her strength could not heal him. Her child touched the human's hand gently, small fingers wrapping around his. The human's eyes softened. He squeezed back faintly, as if drawing strength from that tiny grip. Then, with trembling lips, the mother spoke. "I told you before, if you saved her, I would give you anything. Do you remember?" He gave a faint nod, though his eyes were heavy. "I remember," he whispered. Her voice shook, her body trembling as she leaned close. "Then take my life, my bond, my soul. Whatever strength I have, it is yours. Just live. Please live." The human stared at her, weak but fierce. His voice cracked. "I did not fight for payment, I did not fight for chains. I fought because a child was crying for her mother." Her tears fell harder. Her chest ached with shame, with love, with desperation. "Then fight for me too," she whispered. "Fight. For us, do not leave us alone in this cursed land." The silence pressed heavy. Only the fire crackled, only the mist whispered. The human's breath slowed, his chest rising and falling with effort. He could feel the end creeping close, but then he felt her hand pressed to his chest, glowing faintly. Her people carried old power, small but strong when tied to the heart. She closed her eyes and whispered words from her bloodline, words forbidden to speak to outsiders. Her energy flowed into him. Pain burned through her body, her skin dimmed, her strength fading. But she did not stop, not while his eyes still flickered with life. The human gasped. His body jolted, his wounds burned as the light seeped in, his eyes widened. Then slowly, breath returned to him, deeper, stronger. The mother collapsed against him, weak. Her glow fading to a faint shimmer, the child cried out, clutching her. "Mama!" She lifted her head weakly, smiling at her child. "Do not fear," she whispered. "I am here." The human sat up slowly, confusion and pain mixing in his eyes. He looked at her, saw the weakness in her body, the trembling of her hands. His chest tightened. "What did you do?" he asked, his voice low. Her smile was tired but soft. "I gave what I promised. My life, my strength. It is yours now." The human's eyes hardened, his hands clenched. "I did not want this. I told you." Her hand touched his cheek, weak but gentle. "And I told you, I have nothing else to give." If you had died, my child would have been alone. I would have been nothing. Better my strength belongs to you than the cursed land." He stared at her, anger and sorrow burning inside. Him, but also something else. A weight heavier than blood settled in his chest. A bond not chosen but given. He rose slowly, though pain still lingered in his body. His eyes moved to the freed children huddled together, their faces pale, their bodies bruised. They looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. "They will not survive here," he said, his voice firm. "We must take them out, all of them." The mother tried to rise, but her legs faltered. He caught her quickly, holding her steady. His jaw clenched as he saw her weakness, the price she had paid for him. "You should have let me die," he said bitterly. "You should have saved your strength for her." His eyes flicked to the child. The mother shook her head, her voice soft but unshaken. "No. You are the reason she still breathes. You are the reason I still hope. If you live, she has more than just me, she has us." The human's chest tightened. He turned his eyes away. His hands trembled as he adjusted the grip on his knife. Though he would never say it, her words cut deep. The mist began to shift. Strange cries echoed in the distance. More hunters would come. They had little time. The human looked back at her, at the child clinging to her dress, at the freed children shivering nearby. He sighed, heavy but certain. "Then we move now." She nodded weakly. Her child clung tighter. The other children rose slowly, following. Their small steps echoed in the cursed canyon. The human walked ahead, his knife ready. His body stronger now, though his heart carried the weight of her sacrifice. Every step forward reminded him that her life now flowed inside him, unasked, unwanted, yet binding. Behind him, the mother whispered softly, almost too faint to hear, "You carry my life now, human. That is the price of my loyalty. Do not waste it." The mist of the dark lands thinned as dawn broke. Pale light touched the horizon, painting the sky in gray and silver. The fire in the canyon had burned out, leaving only smoke curling into the morning air. The human walked at the front, his knife in hand, his body weary but unbroken. Behind him, the alien mother carried her child close, and a small group of freed children followed. Every step was heavy. The ground cracked beneath their feet, the cursed land pulling at them as if it wished to keep them forever. But the human's stride did not falter. His strength pushed them forward. His eyes never left the path ahead. The mother stumbled, weak from the power she had given him. The child in her arms looked up at her with wide, worried eyes. "Mama, are you hurt?" The little one whispered. She forced a tired smile, pressing her lips to the child's hair. "No, my light, I am only tired," she said softly. Her gaze lifted to the human, his back straight, his shoulders broad. She whispered to herself, "He carries me now." Hours passed. The cursed land gave way to the first signs of life again. Small plants grew among the rocks. The mist lifted. Birds cried in the distance. The children's eyes widened with hope. They had left the place of death behind. At last they reached the border where the forest began again. The trees stretched tall, their leaves bright against the rising sun. The children collapsed to the ground, clutching the earth as if it was treasure. The mother fell to her knees too, tears falling freely. The human stood still, his eyes scanning the trees, his knife lowered at last. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. For the first time since the desperate plea, he allowed himself to rest. The mother lifted her face to him. Her voice was faint but filled with emotion. "You saved us," she whispered. "Not only my child, but all of them." She gestured to the children huddled close. "You gave them life when no one else would." The human shook his head slowly. "I only did what was right," he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed the weight he carried. The child, small and trembling, walked forward. She clutched the human's hand, her tiny fingers curling around his rough palm. "Thank you," she whispered. Her eyes shone with innocence, with trust. The human froze, his heart tightening. He looked down at her, at the hope in her eyes. Slowly, he knelt so he was level with her. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Stay with your mother," he said softly. "She is your strength." But the mother shook her head. her voice steady despite her weakness. No, she is ours. The human frowned, confusion flickering across his face. Ours, the mother nodded, her hand pressed over her heart. I gave my life to you. You carry my strength now. You cannot walk away from that. Whether you wish it or not, you are bound to us. The human's jaw tightened. He wanted to protest, to say he was only a wanderer, that he owed nothing. But as he looked at her, at the child, at the frightened children clinging together, the words died in his throat. He remembered her desperate plea, the night she had fallen before him in the rain. He remembered the blood, the fire, the beast, and the sacrifice. He remembered her giving everything when she had nothing left, and he knew she was right. The human rose slowly, his eyes steady. Then I will stay until you are safe, he said firmly. The mother's eyes softened. Relief washed over her face. She bowed her head, whispering, That is all I ask. The children huddled around, their eyes shining with hope. For the first time in many nights, they smiled, small but real. The child curled against the human's leg, safe, unafraid. The sun rose higher, warming their faces. The cursed land lay behind them, silent and empty. Ahead was an uncertain future, but also life. The human looked once more at the mother, her body weak but her spirit unbroken. What will your people say, he asked quietly, when they see me with you, with them? Her eyes met his, steady despite her exhaustion. They will not understand, she said softly. They will call me foolish, weak, bound to a human. But I do not care. I know the truth. You are the reason my child breathes. You are the reason I still live. To me, you are not stranger. You are family. The words struck him deeper than any blade. His chest tightened. He turned his gaze to the sky. Silent. The child tugged at his hand again, her voice small but bright. Will you stay? With us? The human looked down at her, her innocent eyes wide. He gave the faintest of smiles. As long as you need me. The mother's eyes filled with tears, but they were no longer only of sorrow. They were tears of hope, of a bond formed not by blood, not by law, but by sacrifice and trust. As the group rose and began walking deeper into the forest, the human walked at the front again, the mother close behind, the child holding both their hands, and though none of them knew what dangers lay ahead, they no longer walked alone. This bond had been forged in fire and blood. The price had been high, but in the end they had found something greater than survival. They had found each other,